Shalom. Just feeling compelled to share, and so trying to be obedient to it. As I just find the silence is easier. There's just so much talking that's already out there. There's a lot. And in this time of my life right now, I find what is best is having Yahuah speak, and let's hear less of men and women. And yet there is some things where Yahuah impresses it on the heart of his servants to speak. And so for where I'm feeling that pushing and that urging, especially if it's several days and several weeks in, trying to be obedient to it. Some years ago, I used to be really into ancient Hebrew study. I used to have a series of videos with a breakdown of my findings, a proposed language, a proposed dialect of the ancient Hebrew for us to use today, with the purpose of having a cleaner tongue. Something different from the modern Hebrew, where, it doesn't take much study to find out that the modern Hebrew is not the same as the Hebrew that was spoken, let's say, during the time of the sovereign, King David, or during the time of Masha and the Exodus from Egypt. I am really, and like many siblings, really fascinated by Yahuah's language. I'm fascinated by his calendar, his appointed times, learning more of the ancient path of Yahuah, which is very different from the languages of today, the calendars of today. I used to be extremely absorbed in these things. I believe that my desire was pure. It was to try to serve Yahuah best as I could, learn more about his matters. And years ago, in that absorption of study, I found that I got distracted, and I didn't even notice it. I was getting distracted by these finer points of things. And considering that I was a student of language, I would be critical. I didn't really realize it at first, but be really critical with my own tongue and with the tongues of others. And over the years, Yahuah has shown me, hey, it's not so much what language you're speaking in. It's the intent of the heart when it is speaking that matters most. And with this warning, this teaching from Yahuah, I took a pause from being so absorbed in language, surface language, looking at the language that is being spoken of from the heart. Because one can speak a perfect ancient Hebrew dialect and still have the intent for wickedness and evil in their heart. One can be speaking entirely Hebrew, one Hebrew speaker to another Hebrew speaker, and yet still have evil in their heart. We saw this. Yasharal, they for a time were in the land, knew all the calendar dates, knew exactly how to speak their language, and still there were matters that Yahuah found unfavorable, so much so that he would scatter them to the four corners of the earth. So what does that mean? But they had a clean lip. They knew when the appointed times were, without a doubt. And yet there was still exile. And yet there was still rejection from Yahuah. Because it was what was in the heart. The language, the intent of the heart coming out. from early on, if you read your word, from the time of the Torah, we have the Exodus, getting into the Promised Land, time of Judges, the time of Kings. Very early on, let's just stop there for a moment, just considering all that had happened just up to that point. The infighting of the nation, literal wars of one tribe against another, the idols raised up in the land, mind you. Let's fast forward to the time of Yahusha, Mashiach. Did not those people have way more information regarding language, regarding calendar? And yet they killed the Mashiach sent to them, the sent one of Yahuah. Did language save them? Did language open up their eyes? Was their calendar observance the righteousness that delivered them, that was able to have them see who Mashiach was and what his message was? I am wearied. I'm wearied of the surface matters of righteousness. I used to, again, be really into the language, really into the calendar. I observe Yahuwah's calendar, mind you, to the best of my ability to this day. I still have information of ancient Hebrew, information that I would like to share. This is actually a disclaimer and kind of something that I have to say before going into such study and sharing. I want to say that it doesn't matter that much in comparison to loving your neighbor as yourself, to guarding the Torah of kindness, of righteous and fair measures. That's right ruling. Of truly, deeply believing in Yahuwah. Because there are going to be people that will judge me because of the English words that I have spoken and speak what they may understand to be a cleaner language. But the language of intent of the heart being wicked before Yahuwah, what does it matter? It doesn't. And I say this and I speak from experience. The experience of being rejected, not because of my calendar observance, not because of the clean words coming out of my mouth, but it was the wickedness from my heart. The things that were unaddressed, the deeper matters of the Torah, the heaviest matters of the Torah, the weightiest matters, right ruling, compassion, belief, a fair measure, truly fair, lacking hypocrisy, actually deeply believing in Yahuwah. Would you consider Yahuwah actually standing beside you in all of your moments with whatever you do? I am challenged now to really look at those things. And I'm wearied by the siblings that were like me in times past. I look at them and I see the me of former years, where I was holding to these things and I was like, oh yes, this is righteousness right here. Losing sight of what may seem to be common. Love, yeah, love is great and all, but you're truly loving your brother if you let him have it where he's wrong. There's some truth to that. But if it's with hypocrisy, it matters not. Yahuwah doesn't care. He won't care about the words coming out of your mouth if the words coming out of your heart are wicked and hypocritical. And you're keeping these finer matters of the Torah and totally ignoring the larger, heaviest matters, the most important things. I'm challenged to focus on these things now. And it's a work that has to be done in the heart, before yourself and Yahuwah. Not something needing to be displayed by others and everyone seeing these works and look at all of this stuff that I have overcome. Yahuwah cares about these deep matters inside the heart. while I'm also feeling compelled to restart with sharing on some of these finer points. I want to express their priority, their lower priority, people. I don't care if you're speaking English and you're speaking the language that Yahuah speaks, the language of love. His Torah is built on love, on Ahaba. People might hear the word, oh, he's saying love, he's saying love. Okay, now he's saying Ahaba, now I will listen to them. Throw that out, that mentality. It's foolishness. It's the foolishness that I once had. Be warned. Because the surface matters of these oh, I'm learning these words, this language. This is helping me out so much. Yes, now I can achieve righteousness. Now it's going to make my prayers more pure. No, you're wrong. If I could talk to my past self, I would tell him the same thing. You're wrong. I guess what I call myself an I don't know. Ignore that. But you're wrong. Hari. Yahu. Har. The names I've had over the years. It doesn't matter. Throw out my name. Yahuwah's name has been ignored for so many years. What does it matter? The name of me, some lowly piece of dirt. But I can say that I'm not lowly if I have value in Yahuwah's eyes. And recognizing my value in him, okay, then there is my worth. Not so that I can boast in myself, and yes, I am a precious vessel of Yahuwah. No, let me be humble. Because if this vessel does not serve its function, it will be thrown out and replaced. There are so many people, so many vessels capable of serving Yahuwah. He can raise up willing and obedient vessels from stones. So let me not boast in what I am, what I could be. I can't say exactly when I will begin to restart something in depth with Hebrew language or matters of the calendar. But I do feel it impressed on my heart to share in time. If it is Yahuwah's desire, if this urging that I'm feeling in my nafash, in my inner being, if it is indeed in line with Yahuwah's desire, then it will come forth. And I don't want to be too haughty and think it like, oh yes, this is the word of Yahuwah right here speaking. And I just have to be careful. I have seen the foolishness I've fallen into in the past, thinking maybe it was Yahuwah's word and maybe it was not. I find later on, hindsight being 2020, looking back and and having that happen so many times, I have to be watchful even of my own thoughts, my own intents. And so with that doubts in myself, it's difficult even to speak like this, where hundreds of people could be seeing this content and and there's some people who will heed this, and I've seen some comments where some of the words said, like, oh yes, thank you for speaking, my teacher. And for that I'm like, oh, whoa. It's heavy. And I want to treat this with caution and care, but I walk realizing that I am not infallible. Yahuwah is infallible. And I praise him for that. And so if there's any shred of truth here, and if there's anything resonating in someone and it's speaking to them, and this is confirming something that Yahuwah has already spoken, maybe he's spoken again through others, and here's another person speaking, confirming a word. Hallelujah, Yahuwah, that his word is going out. It is being confirmed. He is true. He's living. And maybe not living in the sense that we see ourselves breathing is even deeper. He is the origin of all chi, of all life. Anyway, just kind of a disclaimer. Before I share any further matters on language, on matters of the calendar, my findings, things like that, I find that it's, yes, helpful information can be of use, but it is not the heaviest matters of Torah. So I have to say this up front, because I know there are those that are like the me of the past, where I held them in very high regard and neglected the weightier matters of the Torah, and was falling into the folly of the Pharisees. We really need to pay attention. When Yahusha was sent, the sent one of Yahuah, prophesied ages ago, prophets desiring to see him, to hear his words. And now we can walk around with his words in our pocket and bring them up at any time. So amazing that is a thing. But in that same vein of thought, his warnings, his teachings on salvation, he rebuked greatly the teachers of that time. The teachers. It wasn't the laymen that he was coming down so harshly on. It was those who were sitting in the seats of Masha, sitting in that seat of right ruling and of teaching the word of Yahuah, his Torah, correcting them, minding them of their hypocrisy. Matthew 23, one namely place, we can go and look at those rebukes. And if we're not reading those and assessing ourselves, making sure that we are not falling to the same folly, we are in danger of repeating history and murdering our brothers, murdering those sent to us to save us. And it would be a history that has been repeated many times, sadly. Yahuah has been sending out his truth for generations. And his sent ones are killed and are mocked and are trampled underfoot. That is the norm of human history. Let us heed all this history that we have, because we're going to be held responsible. We are a generation that have the Torah, the prophets, the acts and the words of Mashiach, and we can carry it in our pockets. We can carry the compilation in our hands. That is a wealth of knowledge that we have, a wealth of knowledge that past generations did not have. We have the rights of kings, sovereigns, the kings, and there's Torah for them, that they are to have a copy of the Torah for themselves to have. Kings, royalty. And we may now have copies of these, yes, in translations that may not be the greatest, but still we can get so much of the essence of the word of Yahuah. When we look back and see how others, when they came across, just matters of the treasury and, stumbling across, there's this, what is this? The Torah of Yahuah, and going through and, oh my goodness. And then donning sackcloth and ashes, realizing what they had, what's written, what they're reading, and oh my gosh, and repenting. Are we treating his word with such care and with such weight? We need to. It's something that I am challenged to really accept and realize the weight of what we have, the wealth of knowledge of the ages. The prophecy of Daniel has absolutely rung true. Knowledge has absolutely increased in this end time. We have so much information. And with the wealth of it, like looking at it all, we've got to be able to prioritize what is the greatest message coming out here. And if we can't see it, we need to continue to study, figure this out. There are people that have had less that are going to make it into the reign of Elohim, into the reign of Yahuah. This message is for myself and for any other brother or sister who it is for. May we walk humbly before Yahuah in obedience, continuing to resist our flesh. And may we be more focused on our impurities versus the impurities of others. If we're looking at someone else a lot more than we're assessing ourselves, we're not doing the work. We're not doing it properly. Anyway, I speak this with a heavy heart. Just wearied by this age, the pressures. I'm enduring. I'm doing my best to just keep moving forward. But it's difficult, sure, you know, to a degree. And in many ways, it's easy. Because I know the way that I used to live without Yahuah. That was a difficult path. It was dark. There was no light. It was dreary, and I was just kind of droning on, seeking the next fleshly pleasure to give me some kind of like, oh, this feeling of like, oh, that feels nice. All right, great. Next thing. Oh, let me find this food that's gonna, oh yeah, I feel good for a moment. And no. But now, of course, with Yahuah, his word, his shalom reaching the deeper parts in my being, there is a still water that is resting in me. And I think this is part of the gift of Yahuah's word. So anyhow, as we continue in endurance to just resist the temptations of this world, because there's many snares, many stumbling blocks in this end time, many distractions to pull us away from Yahuah. Maybe just all just continue to pursue Yahuah and being better, getting better, addressing our faults, and doing our best to be an encouragement to our brothers and sisters. There's been so much. There's been enough warring in Yasharal. Can we stop? Can we put the weapons down? Can we assess ourselves? Can we war within ourselves? Can we defeat the evil one that is in our own hearts? Can we be more challenged, more encouraged to fight that evil person inside of us than dealing with the wickedness in others? Yes, we are to rebuke our neighbor for certain, bear no sin because of them. Yes. At the same time, we are to love our neighbor as ourselves, to operate without hypocrisy, to operate in compassion, to be understanding. Yahuah is righteous, and he is kind in his discipline, that even when we are being hypocritical, he will bring it back to our faces and show us, hey, while you are rebuking this one, I'm going to bring this to your face. My rebuke will come to you about where you have fallen short. And it's continuous. I love Yahuah for that, for his discipline. He is true. We may not see him like we see one another, but just like how we can see the wind blowing, moving the trees, I don't know about you, but I see him moving in my life, moving in the lives of my brothers and sisters, fortifying my belief in him, because there's just coincidence after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence. And after all that, is it coincidence anymore? Anyway, forgive my rambling. But again, trying to just, I can't hold it back any further. I'm in a season of being careful of just flippantly talking at the mouth. Because where there are many words, there's guarantee of folly and error. And I see it. I can look back on, look at any past video of mine and be like, oh, I could have said this better. I could have said that better. Oh, I don't like how I said that. But it's okay. I am imperfect. I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect. I'm seeking perfection. That is the goal. And I know that I won't reach it. And in a way, I will reach it with the help and the aid and just Yahusha just filling in the gaps, all the gaps that I have. It's just, I'm only perfected in Yahusha. And I believe that perfection will come after my death. And in this time, it's okay for me to be excellent. You know, I think we can absolutely reach excellence while striving for perfection. Anyhow, shalom to you. For you, set apart ones of Yasharal, Yahuah knows who you are. Don't worry about your neighbor and their thoughts of you. Yahuah is the one who defines who you are, not your brother or sister. They have no idea who will make it in the rain, no matter how boldly they profess that they know. They don't know. They are liars if they say that they know. They don't know. I've seen it. I've seen the people coming out saying, oh, you're not going to make it, you sinner. You're going to the lake of fire. You're damned forever. I've seen it. I've seen the condemnation. People sitting in the seat of Yahusha as Shafat, as judge. And in that, immediately, they're disobedient to Yahusha's words. Immediately. But those who don't know any better will hear that and, shake in fear of their brother or sister. But they're wrong. They're disobedient in it. Anyhow. Shalom to you. In the name of Yahusha Mashiach. From one raggedy person who was raised as an American, first generation American, and just doing my best to figure things out and to be repentant, shed off the generational lies and curses, seeking to be something new per the measure of Yahuah. May Yahuah Barak you in this very moment, you seeing this, and or bless. May his kindness be upon you. May we be able to speak a tongue that transgresses this fleshly organ. And may we speak the language of creation. May we speak in the language of love that Yahuah speaks, in a voice that is not audible to these fleshly ears, but audible via the ears of our inner being. Shalom.